This is Eyewitness News on LA56 with live breaking news.
Breaking news in Malibu, where a dangerous high-speed pursuit has come to an end. This is Eyewitness News on LA56. I'm Colleen Sullivan.
Hi, David Ono. Air 7 HD is live over the scene in Malibu, and this location is just up the hill from the Pacific Ocean and not far from Malibu Canyon Road and Pepperdine University. The suspect was wanted for allegedly trying to hit an off-duty officer with his vehicle in the area of DeSoto and Nordhoff in the San Fernando Valley. The picture on your left is live. The picture on the right is videotape. It's believed that officer shot at the suspect. The BMW the suspect was driving had numerous bullet holes in its windshield. The suspect then drove down the 101 freeway to Las Virgenes, then down Malibu Canyon Road with officers in hot pursuit. There were dozens of patrol cars next to that BMW, which is now at Malibu Bluffs Park, and that's where the suspect ran out of the road. And he foot-bailed from the vehicle with a weapon visible in his hand. He ran across the fields of Malibu Bluffs Park and then down a steep and very rugged embankment. He fell numerous times, and at one point he dropped the weapon in the brush. He then sat down and was quickly surrounded by officers above him and below him. He has been there ever since, and that's the picture you see right there. He's been mulling around on that very steep hillside while there are officers both above him, as we said, and below him. And that street below him is Malibu Road that has a number of big mansions. That's the park. That live picture on the left-hand side is the park where he basically ran through and then went down that hillside, which was very steep. And then there you see Malibu Road below. The suspect right there. They have a stun gun on him. He's been sitting there for the better part of a half an hour now, not doing anything. He seemed to be exhausted from that big run, but police are being very cautious about it. There's a tremendous amount of manpower all around him. They aren't taking any chances. We don't know if he has a weapon. They're also now calling him a possible kidnapping suspect. Obviously, a lot of questions remain. We're going to stay on top of this. We'll continue to watch the situation. Oh, but we are going to stay on it. That is Malibu Road. There you see police officers are positioned, and there you see the major homes that are sitting there, and just behind those homes, you'll see the Pacific Ocean, a beachfront property, Pacific Ocean, and there's the suspect up on that hillside where you see the spotlights are on him, and he hasn't moved. He hasn't moved for quite some time, but it was a crazy pursuit, a very dangerous pursuit where he took a lot of chances, was running at a high rate of speed on some roads that were curving all over the place. His vehicle, as we said, was shot a number of times. We don't know if he was hit, but he certainly was running like he wasn't in a whole lot of trouble, Colleen. It's a rather remarkable pursuit, the fact that he is even alive, and nobody, from what we understand, has been hurt in all of this. Exactly,
and we don't exactly know who this suspect is. Police have not released any information on the identity of this kidnapping suspect. Apparently, a woman did run out of the vehicle at some point. We don't know what kind of connection she may have to this situation, if she may have been the victim. Obviously, a lot of questions being asked right now, but right now you can see the suspect is there. He did take quite a few tumbles when he was running down that hill from Malibu, the Bluff Park in Malibu. So again, as you saw some of that pursuit, he was traveling at very high rates of speed, kind of just driving very erratically, almost didn't get any kind of crash. But again, you can see once he got to this bluff area right down from the park and he took some falls, he just stopped. I mean, he really had a lot of energy before leading up to it, and then he just stopped. He laid down. You were saying you don't know if he was hurt. There were several bullet holes in the windshield of his car, so no word if he was injured in any of that or if he was injured in the falls or exactly why he is just looks like he is laying down. But again, look at this terrain. It is very steep.
It is tough to tell, and that hillside is extremely steep. So police officers, we've seen them position themselves down below and up above. I believe a SWAT team of some sort is on the scene now, but they so far have not attempted to go towards the suspect. Not yet, at least. We more than likely there is some sort of communication with him, perhaps asking him to come down, but so far he has not moved at all. It's basically we're just sitting here at a standstill watching this thing unfold. What is remarkable, though, was luckily nobody was hurt during that pursuit. It was a high-speed pursuit. He was in a high-performance BMW. and then he ran out of road basically at this park, and that's when he jumped out of the car. He ran through a baseball field and up to this basically this cliffside and ran down the cliff and fell a few times and ended up halfway down and just stopped. And that's where we've been.
And this pursuit started just before 7 o'clock, so it's going on over an hour, about an hour and 10 minutes now. And this started off at DeSoto Avenue area, and that's where we were in Nordhoff Street. And that's where we saw the BMW traveling very fast through intersections, kind of blowing through some cones and just having no regard for everything in front of him. But again, you can see when he got out of the vehicle, it had bullet holes in the windshield. He sprinted at a very high rate of speed through Bluff Park in Malibu, and that's where you saw some of the police activity up there, probably going through the contents that he sort of just tossed when he was running and then when he was making his way down the hill. And no word on why he is on this hill. Is it just too challenging for him to get down? Is it too challenging for him to get up?
I doubt it. I think it's just they have him cornered and he has no move. He has there's nothing he's going to be able to do except be apprehended. By the way, as you look at that shot, that hill, that road below is called Malibu Road. It is not PCH. So PCH, from what we understand, even though this did go a ways on PCH, PCH is open. That is called Malibu Road, where those mansions are, and that clearly is closed right now because of this police activity. I don't think a lot of people use that road, probably just the folks who live on it, but PCH itself is said to be open, so if you live in that area, don't worry about PCH being closed. That's the suspect. It's harder and harder to see him. The sun is setting, and he has been sitting there for about, 40 minutes now. It was a rather remarkable pursuit, but he's been sitting there for quite some time, really not moving, and I haven't seen him talking on a cell phone or anything, so it's difficult to figure out if he has any form of communication with the police officers. Maybe he just doesn't have another move to make except go to jail, and so he is basically spending his last few moments of freedom right now. Also, we have to point out that we don't know if this suspect continues to be armed. He was at one time. He's wanted for at least attempted murder on a police officer, perhaps kidnapping as well. And as we said, according to reports, he tried to hit a police officer with his vehicle, and that officer pulled out his weapon and fired into the vehicle. We don't know if the suspect fired back, but it was reported that he was armed with a weapon. And we believe that he had that weapon in his hand when he was running from the car through the park, but we think he might have dropped the weapon when he was running or when he was falling down the hillside. It doesn't mean he doesn't have another one.
No, and you can see a large response from law enforcement right now. Obviously, that's the area where the BMW was ditched, and then he ran through the park. But I'm sure a lot of tense moments right now for those homeowners on Malibu Road, where you just never know when they hear all the helicopters above, and you see that there's probably a good possibility that they're using a megaphone to tell them to surrender.
All right, we have JT Alpaugh. You know JT as one of the folks in Air 7 HD, and he joined us via the telephone to talk about this standoff and some strategies. JT, are you there?
Hey, David. How are you guys?
Good, thanks. What do you have to add to what's going on here?
Well, I'd like to add that basically what's happening right now, this is a coordinated effort between the Los Angeles Police Department and LA County Sheriff's Department. It started in LAPD's area, but LA Sheriffs, as it came into the Malibu area, definitely joined into that pursuit. Now, what's happening is they've got time on their side right now. They've got eyes on the suspect, which is the most important part. They have Air Support Division, both LA County Sheriffs and LAPD overhead. They have it lit up with the night sun. The suspect lit up on that hillside, and he's not moving. So that is the advantage for the police officers. The disadvantage are the police officers down on Malibu Road. They're on the low ground down there, so that makes them even more vulnerable. But they have lots of officers on the high ground. We're going to be very careful not to show those officer movements as they move through those canyons trying to get closer to that suspect. We don't want to divulge anything in case that suspect still has a cell phone, and someone may be calling him and divulging that information, so we're going to try to not show that. But you can see him on the hillside here. He's crawled up in that fetal position, and he appears to be injured. Now, we did see some images, and there were some reports earlier that he did, like you said, had a weapon. Now, it wasn't the weapon, it was a weapon. So the law enforcement officers right now are treating this as if he has more than one weapon. So So it's very important that they wait it out. They try talking to him. They try to get him to come down that hill to them, talk them down the hill. It's very difficult on that steep terrain. It's kind of hard to tell from Air 7 HD how steep that terrain is. That is a very steep grade there. As you can see, when that suspect ran down, he fell and did a couple somersaults down that hill where he possibly got injured. It's unclear if he was injured from the fall or possibly gunfire. But right now you can see that he is curled up, obviously in pain or exhausted, and he is not moving, ignoring the commands from law enforcement on the ground. So right now there's plenty of law enforcement resources there, and they have a good position on him. They have good tactical positions, both high ground and low ground. They have him lit up with the spotlights. They have air support division overhead. They're trying to talk him down. So the advantage right now is in the law enforcement. You can see he's kind of moving his head a little bit there. On the left side of your screen, those are live pictures from Air 7 HD. On the right side of your screen, you can see tape that was shot earlier. It's clear that he's in a lot of pain and moving around, but right now he hasn't moved much in that live shot. So they're going to wait him out, David and Colleen, and see what he actually does. Right now they're putting a plan together with their special weapon and tactics teams, put a plan together, figure out how they're going to handle this. But right now there's no rush. They've got him surrounded, and they're going to wait him out.
Yeah, it appears to be that way, JT. Thank you very much for calling us up on this and giving us a good vantage point from Malibu Road. That was obviously very interesting to say that there's quite a bit of armed personnel above him, but below him the law enforcement is in a very vulnerable position. So, of course, they're going to have a much larger response above to try to make their way into him. But you said it was very steep. It's obviously going to be very dangerous for even law enforcement to try to walk to him.
That's a good point that JT also makes when it comes to not revealing too much information. That's generally our policy, especially when we see a suspect holed up in a house in a barricaded situation. They'll bring in SWAT, but we never show the movements of the SWAT teams and show any of the tactics going on with law enforcement, just in case that person could be watching from a television inside the house. JT makes a good point that this guy could have a cell phone, and getting that information from somebody else who could be watching it. Clearly, he's not going to, well, realistically, I guess you could watch this via a cell phone as well. So we always have to be careful of showing tactics here because this is live television, and he doesn't have the vantage point that we do when it comes to showing law enforcement above him and below him. Law enforcement, we reiterate, are being extremely cautious here and very patient here. Obviously, they want this to end as peacefully as possible, but this suspect already has shown a propensity for violence, so they're going to be exceptionally cautious with this. They're not going to take any chances. And
JT was also talking about, a good point was, we believe we saw him drop one gun, but also he may have another gun on him.
Okay, let's go to Amy Powell now. This whole thing started near an LA56. She is in Chatsworth, where apparently was the flashpoint for whatever this incident was. Amy, you're on the phone. Can you talk to us?
Yes, David. We are standing in a parking lot next to the LA56. This is a big shopping center here. There's an LA56. There's a couple of restaurants, a Starbucks, a Subway. And we can tell you that right now there are a lot of people in the parking lot of this LA56, a lot of police officers here, a few dozen probably police officers at this point. It's quite clear that this is where this incident started. We're hearing that there was a shooting here. I spoke to a woman a few minutes ago who told me that at one point she was in the parking lot just outside the LA56. All of a sudden she heard someone yell something out, someone saying something about they were a police officer and get in your car and stay down. She got inside her car. Next thing you know, she told me she heard several gunshots. Now, she didn't see the source of the gunshots. She didn't see what the encounter was that led up to that, but she said she heard those gunshots. She was very terrified. Again, obviously, there are a lot of people here, so it's likely that there were others that were perhaps witnesses to what happened here. Right now, again, they are in the area that the police have cordoned off, and obviously they are being interviewed. And so we're just waiting to hear more details from the police about exactly what happened out here. But clearly a very large crime scene out here and a lot of people around. And again, we're waiting for that information.
Okay, Amy, just clarify really, really quickly. This woman basically heard this police officer tell her specifically to get in her car and get down, and then that's when the shooting broke out.
Yeah, exactly. She told me that she wasn't sure who the person was, but she heard someone saying, I'm a police officer, and next thing she was told was to get in her car, get down, and she did. She said obviously she was terrified. And then when she heard those bullets, she didn't want to look up to see what was going on and what had led up to that encounter. She was just too frightened and just did what she was told at that point.
All right, Amy. Amy Powell is standing by at Chatsworth, where this whole thing started, near a parking lot of an LA Fitness, where we're getting reports that there was some kind of confrontation between this suspect and an off-duty police officer. That officer apparently is what Amy's referring to when he told this civilian, this woman, to basically get down, and the next thing you know, they were shooting, and then the pursuit was underway. This suspect in a high-profile BMW took off. The LAPD was on top of it, then the LA Sheriffs and the CHP. They basically chased this guy down the 101, then down Malibu Canyon Road into Malibu, where he basically stopped at a park. He couldn't go any further, jumped out, ran down a hillside, may have hurt himself, may have dropped his weapon, but he's been staying on the side of that very steep hillside ever since. He is surrounded by police officers of a number of different entities, and that's where we stand. It's been at a standstill for about 45 minutes now. That's a live picture from Air7 HD as we watch this suspect. We have a light on him, and police are all over trying to figure out how to apprehend this guy. They're being very patient and very cautious. We're going to continue to watch the situation. We're going to take a break, and we're going to be right back.
You might.
Okay.
And we are back with breaking news out of Malibu, where a dangerous high-speed pursuit has come to an end. It started in Chatsworth. We were talking with Amy Powell at an LA Fitness in Chatsworth. It started with an off-duty officer involved in some sort of altercation with the suspect. The suspect got into the BMW, raced along the city streets onto the 101, through this area to the PCH, and then to Malibu, where he's stopped right now, right above Malibu Road. The suspect also ditched his sort of a bunch of paraphernalia of some sort when he jumped out of the car at Bluff Park in Malibu, and then he took some stumbles down the hillside. And we're going to go back over to JT Alpa, who is on the telephone to talk to us again about what it's like being in this position above, like in Air7 HD. You're usually in Air7 HD, JT, and give us another idea, another vantage point from your view.
Well, this is definitely one of those pursuits, Colleen, that was very, very heated. Anything with shots fired during or right before a pursuit. Suspect really trying to get away from officers, both LAPD and LA County Sheriffs. and endangering a lot of people as he drove through those canyons back to the situation, back to the area what you see right now. You can see in that picture on your right that suspect obviously in a lot of pain as he fell down that hill and somersaulted down 2 or 3 times. Very tense situation right now. I really want to comment on the coordination between the LA County Sheriff's Department and LAPD. This is a situation that LAPD had the lead on it, and as he came into the sheriff's area, there was an amazing amount of communication between the officers, and that's extremely important when they can communicate on the same frequencies and make sure there's not crossfire situations between the low ground and the high ground. And they did an excellent job with the air support and the ground officers on keeping an eye on a suspect, advising them what he was doing, his actions, his hands, even the point where he dropped that gun into the bushes, or a gun, not the gun, into the bushes. Now you can see in that live picture back from Air 7 HD, you can definitely see there is still some movement. We just saw his head go up and down here. Obviously he's still alive and appears to be conscious. Now it's very difficult to tell whether he was injured in that fall. Is it possible that he has received a gunshot wound? That still is yet to be determined. A lot of these things happen during these pursuits when the suspect is hurt. Now you can see that he's maybe trying to slide down the hill, maybe responding to some of the officers' commands from the ground and the bullhorns to maybe slide down the hill to where they're at. It's uncertain if he's able to do that or not, but I'm certain that they're communicating with him to try to get him to come down to them, which is a much safer tactical position for the officers, to get him to come down to them rather than for them to climb up that hill and get to him. And that precarious terrain and that steep terrain is a very dangerous tactical situation, just in case he does have an additional gun. So right now, very tense situation. Like I said earlier, it is in the officer's side right now. They have the time on there. They have the personnel on hand. They've got SWAT. They've got air support. They've got eyes on. They've got imagers. They've got infrared. They've got all the tools necessary to take care of this suspect. If need be, they will put tactical teams together and go in and take him into custody at some point. We understand from what we saw from where he ditched that gun or threw that gun, it's about 25, 30 yards up the hill, a little bit further up the hill than where he is right now. So it would be very difficult in his state to go back up and get that gun, if indeed that is the only gun. So they have that advantage. But you never know what he's got on him, a secondary gun, so they're always very concerned of that. You can see that he's probably got another 50 to 75 yards of very steep terrain before he would even be close to those officers down on Malibu Road near the colony there. But right now he is just hanging out. We do see some movement, so we know he's still alive. But in a situation like this, very tense. But now the adrenaline is starting to wear off on the officers. The tactical element is responding. Clear heads have prevailed. They're going to put a plan together, and they're going to take care of business. Right now, it's a wait-and-see game, and what the suspect does here will determine the LAPD and LA Sheriff's activities from here on forward.
Right, and it's not out of the question that he could be severely injured with the, it does appear, and from the way it's explained to us, that officer firing into this vehicle was at very close range. We saw the bullet holes on his windshield, about 6 of them, that look like they're right near the center of the windshield. It's not out of the question that he was hit by gunfire in that exchange with adrenaline. He could even have been under the influence. And then on the run, and then as he's coming out of it, he might start realizing he is hurt a lot worse than he had first suspected, especially with the adrenaline wearing off. It's not out of the question that he could be badly hurt.
And that, David, is altogether the truth. It's not like when in the movies or on television when you see suspects hit by gunfire. They don't always go down right away. Some of the time, like you said, with all that adrenaline running, they can be hit with gunfire and go on for several minutes, even close to an hour, depending on where they were hit. Now, we didn't see much blood as he was running down that hill from earlier. We didn't see much of that, but that does not mean he wasn't hit. And he has that dark-colored shirt on. May be very difficult to see if he is bleeding, but very possible that if you bring up a good point. With that adrenaline run, you could go on that adrenaline for quite a bit before you finally just give it up.
Right. And then, okay, so that's the suspect sitting on the side of a very steep hill. Police are positioned above him and below him, and he's in that fetal position. You could kind of see his legs now because his shorts are kind of ridden up a little bit. He's got a black sweatshirt on, but he's not moving much. It almost looks like he's falling asleep there. And maybe he was under the influence of some sort, and maybe he's coming down from it now. I don't know. There's a lot of speculation here, but he's not doing anything threatening at this point, but still officers are not going to take any chances with him.
And he's not even moving, it doesn't look like. So as far as trying to inch down that it sort of looks like a rocky, steep, rugged terrain. There's not probably a lot of places to get good footing, but it doesn't look like he's moving at all. And again, this started at 6:54, and we're heading on into quite an hour and a half into this, and he's not moving down this hillside.
Okay, we are now getting word that we have a soundbite from an eyewitness at the initial crime scene where the shooting took place. Let's roll that.
I was getting in my car, getting ready to leave. I see two gentlemen kind of running. One guy said, "Get down, get down," and I had my door open. He goes, "Shut your door, lock your car, and get down." And as I was getting ready to shut my door, somebody in the car behind me, the guy said, "I'm a cop." And all I did is get down, and I heard about 5 or 6 gunshots. And I've never been so scared in my life.
All right, so that, I think, is the witness that Amy Powell was talking to. Let's bring Amy Powell back on the phone. Amy, is that the witness you were telling us about?
Yes, it is, David. That is a woman named Liz. And, she is still here because, again, her car is inside the parking lot, which is part of the crime scene. So even though she's very shaken by all of this, she can't leave here because she was so close to this incident and obviously close to such danger. She's breathing a little easier now, but obviously this is a very difficult situation for her. Again, we are still waiting for the police to fill us in on some of the details of what happened here, but it's obviously a lot of information they're trying to compile here. Again, this parking lot is very busy. We're outside the LA Fitness. There's dozens of cars in the parking lot here, and there are dozens of people here. Imagine the club was very busy when all this happened. Again, Liz told us she was walking to her car in the parking lot, which is it's almost to the back of the club, is where she showed us where her car is parked. And that is when she said all this happened. With suddenly she heard the yelling, and the next thing you know, she heard the bullets flying. So we're hoping we get some more details, but right now the police are obviously very busy and don't have time to fill us in on exactly what happened here.
All right, Amy, thank you very much for that live report. We'll check back in with you in just a minute, and stay with us on LA56 for more coverage.
They just played her soundbite.
And we are back with our live breaking coverage out of Malibu. You can see a large law enforcement presence in Malibu at the Malibu Bluff Park, where a dangerous high-speed pursuit came to an end. The pursuit started in Chatsworth, where apparently it started in the parking lot of the LA56. We're told by witnesses said they heard some gunshots. They heard maybe possibly an off-duty officer saying, "Stay in your car." And that's when authorities then were chasing a suspect believed to be a kidnapping suspect down the 101 and through the PCH and then into Malibu, where he possibly lots of shots were fired, not knowing if it was from the suspect firing shots, but the windshield of his BMW had multiple bullet holes in the windshield, and that suspect then took off on foot in a very, very rapid speed and then dropped a bunch of items while he was running. And then when he got to here, when he was running through Bluff Park, he took a couple tumbles down this hillside where he has been staying for quite some time. He's been in sort of a fetal position now for at least a half hour. We don't really see a lot of movement, but this is an area that's very rugged, very steep, and it's right above Malibu Road. We do want to say that the PCH is open. There's probably a lot of traffic there with all the police and law enforcement presence, but LAPD is on this, LA Sheriff's Department's on this, the CHP, and obviously fire is also working this scene as well. And as we see, there are several different crime scene locations where authorities are parked. They're parked at the LA56 in Chatsworth. They're parked in the parking lot of Bluff Park, and they're right at Malibu Park. So stay with us. We'll be back with more coverage. And we are back with our live breaking coverage out of Malibu, where a dangerous high-speed pursuit came to an end. You're looking at the suspect right there, perched on a hill, sort of in the fetal position. Welcome to LA56 at 8 o'clock. I'm Colleen Sullivan.
And I'm David Ono. That suspect has not moved for the better part of an hour. He has been there. That's just to give you some idea, a very steep hillside, and it is just above Malibu Road, where there are some million-dollar mansions below, and just simply the Pacific Ocean. Those mansions sit right on the beach. And so that's where he is. If you're familiar with Malibu, we've all been through Malibu. We see those very steep hillsides. He is on one of them right now. But this whole thing started in Chatsworth, apparently in the parking lot of an LA Fitness at DeSoto and Nordhoff. And that's where there was some type of confrontation between this suspect and a law enforcement officer. Witnesses say that that officer yelled that he's a cop. He told people to get down, get into cars, and then the next thing you know, there's gunfire, 5 to 6 shots. Apparently that officer shooting into this suspect's vehicle. The suspect, it was reported, had tried to run that officer down. We don't know if the suspect was under some sort of investigation or if this was just a chance occurrence. Nevertheless, the suspect then took off. A high-speed pursuit was then underway. The suspect ran from Chatsworth, eventually getting on the 101 and finding his way to Malibu Canyon Road, winding down that very windy road at more than 80 miles per hour, a very dangerous pursuit. And he eventually ended up on PCH and then a park he ran out of road basically at Bluff Park in Malibu. And if you are familiar with Bluff Park, it sits on the very top, or a bluff, on a cliffside. He left his car, ran through a baseball field, and then down that very steep hillside where he fell a number of times. We believe he had a weapon at the time, but he dropped his weapon either in falling or in running. The picture on your right-hand side, that's video from earlier this evening where he eventually stopped in the middle of this hillside and he just laid down. There you see his rather bizarre behavior, rolling around. There is some speculation that he might be hurt, maybe from falling, maybe from gunfire, but he has remained there for, as we said, the better part of an hour while law enforcement positions themselves at the top of the cliff and at the roadside, the Malibu Road, down below. The suspect has nowhere to go. There you see that's the police presence below the suspect, and there's a larger police presence above the suspect. He has no place to go. He's been sitting there, staying put for all this time, basically not moving. And then, okay, that's PCH on the left-hand side, that small box. That's a live picture of PCH. And Carper, our producer, help me out here. Is that just traffic, or is that all law enforcement and emergency personnel on the road? That's traffic on PCH. So PCH obviously is bogged down because of this police activity. And believe me, if you look at Bluff Park right now, you'll see dozens of police cars, fire engines, etc. There you see a little bit. It's getting dark out there, obviously, but a huge police presence.
Absolutely. And again, this all started around 6:54 in Chatsworth at the LA Fitness, again on DeSoto Avenue and Nordhoff Street, where we don't know exactly if this started inside the gym or if it started inside the parking lot. But we know that witnesses had said that a police officer had come out and said, you know, I'm a cop, get into your cars, and then some gunfire happened. But this may have been a kidnapping suspect, and that is what one of the initial calls were coming out, that it was a kidnapping suspect. We don't know exactly if there was someone, a victim inside the vehicle, we just don't know exactly where this kidnapping suspect crime stems from. But we do have Amy Powell. She is live in Chatsworth. She's in the parking lot. She has spoken to some witnesses. Amy, you're talking about possibly maybe being able to talk to law enforcement. You said it's a pretty large crime scene out there.
That's right, Colleen. They have taped off the area around the LA Fitness, and also they've taped off this entire street in front of the LA Fitness. So that is why it's such a large area we're talking about. This LA Fitness has several dozen cars in the parking lot. Obviously, people were here after work, I imagine, working out. I can see from where I'm standing in the parking lot of a restaurant and a Starbucks next door. I can see there are several people in their workout clothes. Perhaps many of them witnessed what happened, and obviously they are now part of the investigation. We see officers speaking to some of them, no doubt getting information about whatever they saw. But again, they cannot leave right now while this investigation is continuing. Again, we're trying to determine where this all started. We heard from that witness, Liz, we spoke to earlier. You heard what she said. She was walking towards her car. She had been inside the club. She was walking towards her car when she heard the yelling, heard someone yelling about being a police officer, and then she heard that gunfire. So obviously a lot for police to sort out here, and so many scenes involved in this situation, but it's clear that something happened inside this parking lot. We just don't know if it started inside the club or when it erupted inside in the parking lot here.
All right, Amy. Well, thank you. Stay put. Of course, we will probably be checking back in with you in just moments. But again, you can see the suspect right now perched up on this hill right above Malibu Road. Again, Malibu Road is closed. You saw the traffic on PCH, which is jam-packed. So if you do not have to go to this area, try to avoid it. But again, this all started in Chatsworth, where then the suspect driving very fast, very high rates of speed in his BMW, driving through the streets, then onto 101, then onto PCH, and then eventually stopping at Malibu's Bluff Park, where when he ran out of the vehicle, he discarded several items before he was running down the hill. He took a few falls, and this is exactly where it ended up. And this all started around 6:54, so this has been going on for quite some time. And stay with us. We will have live continuous coverage right after the break. And we are back out live with our breaking news out of Malibu. Take a look right now. You can see law enforcement have closed the intersection of the Pacific Coast Highway and Malibu Canyon because of a dangerous high-speed pursuit that ended in this area at Bluff Park. And the suspect, you can just see the traffic lasting for quite some time. And of course, this is going to make, and you can see people turning around right when they head in and see this traffic. They're just turning around, which is I don't know if it's a good thing to do at that point, but if you can avoid this area, try to avoid it because of this high-speed pursuit. And now the suspect is on the cliff right above Malibu Road, which Malibu Road is closed. But you can see PCH is closed at the intersection of Malibu Canyon.
Well, that's going to be tough for travelers or motorists who are stuck right there where it's closed and they don't have anywhere to go, because they could be stuck as long as this activity continues, and it does seem like it could continue for quite some time. The suspect now, he has been on the side of that cliff. That's the most movement we've seen in quite some time. He seems to be just lying down there. We don't know what kind of communication law enforcement has with the suspect. I haven't seen him talk on a phone. He did, as Colleen pointed out, dropped a whole bunch of stuff when he was running, and perhaps some of that could have been a cell phone. Maybe he never had a cell phone. But I haven't seen him talking on a cell phone. Clearly they have loudspeakers. I don't know how that process is going, but he is just kind of writhing around there. There is some speculation he could be injured from his fall or maybe even from the shooting. We just don't know. Although, as J.T. Alpa pointed out, and I will agree, I didn't see any blood on him when he was running. But that's him. He's been lying there basically since about 7:30 this evening is when the actual pursuit came to an end. He jumped out of the car and then he ran. The vehicle pursuit came to an end about that time. He ran and ended up on that side of the hillside, and he hasn't moved since then.
And yeah, again, David, this is the most movement we've seen. Now he's sitting up. At first it looks, this is the most movement we've seen. At first it looks like he was laying down and trying to burrow himself in a little spot, but now he's sitting up. Maybe he is going to try to inch down, because obviously law enforcement are telling him, come down, because this is obviously and there
he's kind of rolling around on the hillside. And again, we don't know if he has been under the influence of something. The way he was so erratic in running from law enforcement officers, I don't think anybody would be surprised if he was under the influence of something, or maybe he was just so desperate to get away. But he's finally showing some progress on this hillside. Perhaps law enforcement is asking him to come to them. That looks like some sort of emotion. He's trying to do some kind of emotion to law enforcement.
And we're actually getting an update right now that LA County Fire is sending a helicopter en route to pick up the injured suspect, and once they can get him out. So now we're learning that LA County Fire is sending a helicopter to try to rescue him, to try to bring him out of this area. But
well, they also called him an injured suspect, so maybe there is an injury of some sort that they know of that we haven't heard of yet. Perhaps he is hurt. Maybe that's why he hasn't moved. And maybe it is from the fall. Maybe he hurt his back. He could have hurt a leg, and maybe that's why he hasn't gone very much further. When he first stopped, he did writhe around a little, like he was in a little bit of pain. And while we didn't see any blood, what would be a decent indication of a gunshot wound, because keep in mind, an officer shot into his windshield 5 or 6 times. But we didn't seem to see any kind of injury to him when he was running from police officers. He's been acting this way since he fell down the hillside. And keep in mind, it's a very steep hill, and he was running at full speed. Yeah,
and this is very steep right here, and it's very rocky. It's not like he has a lot of areas where he can hold on to or get his grip, but it does look like he's trying to maybe get down this hillside. Of course, this is right above Malibu Road. Again, Malibu Road closed off, but he is laying face down. Maybe he's surrendering, and no word exactly, because of course we cannot hear the audio if what authorities are saying to him, but they are close enough for him to hear if they are talking to him from below or from the helicopter. But clearly we don't know exactly to the extent of his injuries, what exactly they are. But again, like you said, that the LA County Fire is sending the helicopter to pick up an injured suspect.
And if you're wondering why law enforcement hasn't moved in on this suspect just yet, he's a very dangerous suspect. He was said to be armed. He's said to have tried to run down a police officer, and also they're calling him an attempted murder on a police officer suspect. And also we've heard some reports of a possible kidnapping suspect as well. So they believe that this is a dangerous man. At one time he was armed, so they're not taking any chances. He's got the high ground over the officers who are below him. So strategically, they aren't in the best of positions, although there are many officers above him. They aren't moving in. Nobody has moved in. From what we understand, J.T. Alpa, as he pointed out, more than likely the suspect will be ordered to come to the officers. But obviously that will be thrown out the window if he can't move and he's injured. So they'll have to come up with another plan if the suspect is not able to move. But we don't know. Maybe it's just bizarre behavior. Maybe he is injured. Maybe the police are going to have to come up with some other idea on how to get to the suspect. but it's a very dangerous procedure because he could still be armed. This could be tactics on his part, and they have to consider every possible scenario.
And David, you can't really, again, you can't hear the audio, but it sort of looks like he is being instructed. That's, you know, once he laid down, now he's laying face down and he spread his legs, then he spread both of his arms, he put his face to the side. So clearly it looks like maybe he's getting some instructions from law enforcement.
And he's very close to officers now, as you could see. He's a lot closer than he was, at least. But still, traversing up a very difficult hillside for police officers puts them at risk. And he obviously has not been frisked. He had a weapon at one time. He could have another weapon, and they're going to handle it so. So we're going to continue to watch this situation. The suspect is now slightly on the move. A full update when we come back.
And we are back with our live coverage right there. You can see the suspect involved from a dangerous pursuit. He is on the side of a mountain in Malibu, right below Bluff Park, right above Malibu Road. And we are just learning, Eyewitness News has just confirmed that a federal agent was involved in the initial incident. And that initial incident was in Chatsworth at the LA56 on DeSoto Avenue and Nordhoff Street. And that's where we talked with Amy Powell earlier, and she had said that witnesses said they heard someone say, "I'm a cop, get in your cars," and then they heard some gunfire then happen after that, and then the suspect was in a BMW and he was racing through the streets, having no regard for anything in front of him, getting on the 101, then onto the PCH, and then again in very high rates of speed, and then dumping the car at Bluff Park, abandoning it, then throwing a bunch of articles out of his hands, and it was just kind of falling from him. And then he went to this area when he was trying to run down, and he fell several times. But now you can see he looks like he's sort of in a position where we've been seeing him in a fetal position for 45 minutes at least, and now it looks like he had been instructed to roll over, spread his legs, spread his arms, put his face to the side in a sort of position where, again, we had told you just moments before we went to break that the LA County Sheriff's Department was sending their helicopter to rescue the injured suspect.
So there is some belief or speculation that the suspect is injured. He is lying there face down, as Colleen pointed out, so perhaps officers are making their way to him, but we just don't know, and we don't even want to confirm their movements at this time just in case. But the latest developments that Eyewitness News has been able to confirm, there's a good shot to you, and that shows you a great perspective of where the officers down below on Malibu Road are compared to where the suspect is. He has traveled quite a bit down that hillside now in the last few minutes, so he is within range of them. As we are watching this situation closely, they're clearly watching him. He is lit up right now. There's nowhere he can go. But this new development, knowing that this first confrontation was with an FBI agent in the parking lot of an LA Fitness in Chatsworth, that makes you speculate that perhaps he was under some sort of investigation to begin with. Perhaps, I don't know if that was a chance encounter or not. That was just a shot from earlier of the BMW. That's what the car the agent shot into when it was reported that the suspect tried to run the agent down. So 5 or 6 shots into that BMW, and that BMW is what he used to run down the 101 and eventually to Malibu Canyon Road onto PCH, and then the park up on Bluff Park, and then he abandoned the car, ran down the hill, and that's where we have been so far. So he hasn't moved in a number of minutes now. Keep in mind that is video on the right, live picture on the left. We're going to continue to watch it. We'll be right back. All right, significant developments during the break. The suspect has now been apprehended. It's difficult to see because they turned off the night light from the helicopter, but those are flashlights of police officers who have taken the suspect into custody. On the right-hand side, that's videotaped from just about a minute and a half ago, where you see the law enforcement moving into the suspect. He did not resist. They're able to take him into custody, and we're waiting still for an emergency helicopter to come in and airlift the suspect out. They said he is injured, but we want to let you know that apparently this thing is wrapped up. The suspect did not put up a fight. Law enforcement moved in and apprehended the suspect.
And of course, all this happened at 6:54, so this took about an hour, a little over an hour and a half for all of this to happen. But again, it started in Chatsworth. It went from Chatsworth, started with an FBI agent, know exactly what sparked this whole confrontation. And we also know that there were some gunshots. And also, you can see where we're still looking at some coverage of the suspect being taken from Bluff Park, just below Bluff Park, right above Malibu Road in Malibu. So you can see the suspect has been taken into custody. No word on what charges he might be facing.
He's now on the hood of the car. We're going to have a full report in Eyewitness News at 11 o'clock. We'll continue to monitor this situation. Stream this video live on ABC7.com. Thanks for watching us on LA56.